Tech Rodeo, I'm really excited to continue our conversation, picking up where Chris left off as a founder of Mainline. We're now sitting down with Lori, the CEO of the Overwatch League team, the Houston Outlaws, which I think is going through so many of the industry-defining education aspects that Chris is experiencing at Mainline. Lori, first question I have, and really just as you think about what it's like to use COVID and the opportunities to really speak to what the similarities from Chris defining his market, you kind of defining your market, and his ability to interact with kind of more traditional teams like colleges who used Mainline as a revenue generating source when football all of a sudden disappeared. Have you guys seen something similar in your business?
Yeah, we absolutely did. And it's really exciting to have the opportunity to talk to you about the Houston Outlaws. Last year was almost this time where the league had paused, our play with the beginning of what became the pandemic. And so within 2 weeks, our league went from a league that was requiring our teams to travel every week and play, in land-based, event venues, if you will, into an online world. And I think what precipitated us, sort of pivoting and shifting how we thought about the business was very much about the fact that, oh my God, we are a sport and entertainment vehicle that lives through digital and online. So even if we can't physically be somewhere, we can absolutely be there online and engage with the consumer. And of course, esports is supported by platforms like Twitch and Discord, where there's constant interaction between players and fans. And so it enabled us to think about our business differently. And when we thought about events last year, I charged my team to try and come up with events that would be better in the virtual experience than they would have ever even been live. Yeah. I'm not, whether that's realistic or not, neither here nor there, but that's exactly what we tried to do. And I think we did well.
So Twitch and Discord, Twitch is like a live YouTube? Is that kind of the way to think about it?
Yeah, it's a live YouTube. It's owned by Amazon. It is truly the gamers and the streamers, content creators platform, if you will. And what makes it really interesting and exciting for consumers and fans is that they can engage with others. Mm-hmm. They can watch their favorite, celebrities, if you will, and be just addicted to what they're doing. It's almost like getting to sneak into someone's bedroom and watch what they're doing and who they're talking to and how they're interacting and feel like you're truly a fly on the wall. And then it allows for them to actually chat, be it verbally or to write things in there. And oh my goodness, Dante, an outlaw, star for the Outlaws, just sent me a response in chat. Wow, I'm important. So it allows the fan to feel, I think, much more connected to the stars.
So I think this is really interesting because as somebody that really enjoys understanding why or what makes something truly unique or truly special, I'm looking at you, and if I was going to design a demographic for somebody that was going to step in as the CEO of a video gaming franchise, I don't know that I would paint your image.
Thanks a lot.
Is that part of what you see? Just the fundamental shift in the ability to interact, and as a marketing professional, that actually is enticing to you?
Yeah, I think a great question. And I think you really actually are spot on the money. I mean, if you're a marketer, you're thinking about who your target audience is that you're trying to cater to, and you're trying to make sure that you're putting out the best products that's going to appeal to that consumer, that you're figuring out the best way to communicate on, the platforms, et cetera. And so this is really, in my mind, a marketing challenge. Yeah. We're owned by Beasley Media Group, which is the fourth largest radio operator in the country.
Based here in Houston?
No, based in Naples, Florida, with, really strong leadership in major markets like Philadelphia and Boston and Detroit, Las Vegas, et cetera. But the key to the company is that we're about making content. And that's what we're all about, connecting with consumers. It just so happens that radio connects with a slightly older demographic than video gaming and esports does. But, we're running it like a business. We think of it like a business, and we see it as really sort of a next generation media company.
So what's unique about you that allowed you to really kind of latch on to this shift? Like, what is it did you have a background in reaching out to a younger demographic as a marketer? Like what led you here?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you know this and just from the experiences that you've had as well, there are really major behavioral differences between the different generations, starting from, baby boomers down to Xers to, Gen Y, Gen Z, and, really trying to understand what makes each of those generations tick so that you can then figure out, what kinds of opportunities and experiences you need to create to really engage with them. And we as a company, our CEO is very much forward leaning. While the company's, legacy has been in radio, the company employs individuals that are fourth generation Beasleys.
Yeah.
And they want to make sure that they've got fifth and sixth generation Beasleys as part of the company too. And so the real challenge is to identify new business diversification opportunities that will allow our company to be poised for a really strong future by having a strong portfolio of media assets within our mix.
So I'm not a marketer, but I can see that, the world is certainly moving online. When during the middle of COVID, you couldn't even watch, traditional live sports if you wanted to. So, you saw things like Twitch viewership, triple in the span of the pandemic, and Facebook gaming has picked up, and there's actually a lot of really interesting, traditional media like things that are happening maybe below the surface in this gaming world. Are you spending most of your time educating potential partners from the media to really help them understand why this is different? Or do you spend most of your time kind of fielding inbounds at how to get better players? Like what, as a CEO of the Outlaws, what do you spend most of your time on?
Oh, you spend most of your time on different things at different parts of the year.
Sure.
From a recruitment perspective, this season that we're in right now that kicked off in April is a really big deal for us. Yeah. While we acquired our team in November of 2019, every contract was really locked in for last year's players. And so there wasn't a lot of movement that we could do in terms of shifting strategy. And that's why marketing really played such a big role during COVID, because that was the one area that we could absolutely control completely.
Well, you guys crushed it because your team ranks second, I think.
Now we do. I mean, we clean slate. Yeah. We figured out, what kind of player profile mattered to us, right. What types of players we thought would mix well. We learned from COVID that we didn't like having our players living in all different places. Mm-hmm. We wanted them living under one rooftop, or in our case, two rooftops. So we've got the entire player and coaching roster living in two houses, so they can live and breathe Outlaws and Overwatch. We also, they spend a lot of time here this year. It wasn't like that last year. Our players are here usually from 10 to 10. They're on a break right now, but they're here from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. every single day, that long days, training 6 days a week. Yeah. And so they have to like each other. They have to, feel supported by each other. And then we've changed their whole culture. They're doing health and wellness training. I mean, the works. Yeah. So I'd say that's the content side of things, because if we don't have good players, and then we can't make good content that interests anybody. So, and has fans that are flocking to follow us. So that's really important. But the biggest thing that I lose sleep on is revenue. Yeah. Running one of these teams is super expensive. We bought a very expensive franchise to be in the Overwatch League and to have the luxury of playing, for Activision Blizzard's, Overwatch brand. So super expensive. And so we need to bring in sponsorship revenues. And it's not just about, bringing in, like we've got over here, a brand, we've got HEB and Samsung, Zenny, Astro Gaming on a program that we did. It's not just like putting their logos on stuff. It's integrating them in, because esports and video gaming is such an engaging sport with consumers and fans. We need to mimic that when we're creating sponsorship opportunities for brands. And so, I often say we're a talent agency because we have, our roster of talent to work with. Mm-hmm. We are a creative agency because we have to create really exciting, compelling things that gets an HEB excited and thinking that we're as good as the Texans that they also support. Yeah. And then we also have to operate as a media company where we have to market all the content, the assets that we create. So, there's a lot of expectation. And where it gets tricky for us is some brands don't have dedicated esports specialists on them. Maybe sponsorships or media is making decisions about things like this that they don't know a lot about. And or they'll relegate to their media agencies. And, media agencies are well known for having radio buying teams and television buying teams and print buying teams, digital buying teams. But, well, where is esports in all of that? Where does it fit? And it doesn't always fit in the same place for every organization. And consequently, I will tell you that, education is intrinsically tied to revenue. I think that esports is on the brink because of COVID, very accelerated by COVID, of becoming mainstream. And we're trying to help it become mainstream here in Houston. I'm happy to talk about that. But by becoming mainstream, I think it will give more and more marketers a comfort level that this is not a weird thing. It's not an unusual thing. This is really a very, very hot segment of the sports entertainment category.
So many things to touch on there. I mean, when I was growing up, video games were fun and you could get in trouble playing too many video games. And I know that in not as much in America directly, but in other parts of the world, there really has been a well-developed pipeline, a feeder system, if you will, of professional gamers. So we'll put that on the table there. What's maybe, just as a parallel as you're talking, that seems like maybe a series of steps. If you look at traditional media, you create content, then sell that content. The only way you can get direct feedback on engagement is through something else. You go from that to, having maybe a support line or in-person marketing. And then you go to the social media, which allowed these brands, every now and again, some brand goes viral for saying something funny on Twitter or Facebook. And that creates an engagement point for people. So marketing teams have been moving closer to where esports really is in terms of the ability to engage and interact, and maybe even specify what you really want to reach out to. Do you think that trend is going to continue?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think we're moving from this mass market kind of approach to marketing to, hey, I want to reach you, and I want to talk to you and I want you to talk back to me. And, you see that with social media too, the engagement that goes on in social media. So this is coming and it's going to appeal to every demo, right? And then let us not forget that while we're talking about this younger demo today, this is the first generation of young people that have really grown up with, a phone in hand when they were babies. And so I can't imagine what they're going to be like as they become, full-fledged adults and are really sitting in some of these C-suites, in the future and making strategic decisions about how brands and media operate. And just think about this younger generation coming. I mean, most of our players for the Outlaws our youngest player just turned 18. And our oldest player is 24. They don't last much longer than that. At least right now, by the way, that esports has trained. I think that will change in the future though. But these young ones that are now, 12, 14, wow, they are going to be phenoms. And, you bring up other parts of the world like Korea. We've got 3 players that are from Korea. They're light years ahead of us in terms of the skills that some of these young people have. Their work ethic is also rather incredible. And so, they are, I think, early adopters in what's going on with esports, but, we're born and bred to win in America too. So, and no better place than in Houston and Texas. So, so I think there's a good future for our American players as well.
Well, that sounds pretty exciting. Now, as you're thinking about all of these demographics we've talked about, and for background, just what's going on in the world, I believe for the first time in the past couple of years, millennials have stepped in and actually have transacted the majority of new homes in an article in the Wall Street Journal here today. So it takes some time for these generational changes to really become mainstream, and you really see this as a opportunity for brands to get in early. And get that direct connection with these younger demographics. I totally understand that. As you follow this forward, are you in a spot where you can kind of predict, or are you imagining, are you dreaming? Like, what stage of the future are you really kind of thinking about?
Yeah, so I think the staggering numbers that I think about a lot, and that other companies that we work with, like Tegna Television, think about is, again, we're back to how do we create media for consumers that are at different life stages or at different age and demographic, breakdowns. And I think that, what we're seeing here is that the younger consumer, and I think COVID had a lot to do with this as well, though I think in a weird way it's also hurting it. But I think there's a transition afoot where the younger generation is taking over some of the reins of our economy.
Yeah.
And in media, I think that is going to continue to accelerate because of these new platforms. Like I talk to people sometimes and they're like, I don't even get what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Discord, I don't want to hear about it, And so that's scary a little bit because, wow, if you want to make sure that your brand resonates with a particular demographic that relies on that kind of a media channel, you're taking some risk if you're not going to lean into that. And so I think that companies like ours, we have a lot of young people running around here. You need to have people that are really conversant on these media platforms. And then that group, though, think about the group of young people. They were around when their parents experienced the 2008 recession, really impacted family income and retirements. And then now COVID did this sort of the same thing, in a weird way, it was almost identical. And so I remember reading a few weeks ago that like 52, for Pew Research, 52% of all consumers under the age of 29 were living at home with their parents during COVID. Right. Now think about that for a minute. I'm 29 years old. I thought I'd be out on my own, living it up. Yeah. And I suddenly spent the last year living at home with my parents. It might've been fun for the first couple of weeks. And then it wasn't exactly my ideal situation for somebody who's 29, trying to date, have a social life, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's kind of turned everybody upside down. In the end, I think, being somebody that looks at trends is that we are going to be in a world that values what we have a whole lot more, and that spending time with friends, engaging with friends, and doing whatever it is we want to do with friends, whether it be playing video games, is what we're about. And last, I think that this younger generation has really dug their heels into the ground around diversity and equality and inclusion. And I personally believe it's the younger generation that's going to force all of us to really, really come to terms with all this and to envision a world that's more open and inclusive. And I think the video game world, esports, is doing that because I could be playing with kids around the world tonight, and not me personally, but, if I were a player, and it's exposing young people to people that they don't necessarily sit beside in class. They don't know and live in their neighborhood, but they share a lot in common with. And so I think there's so much good that comes out of it. It's just a different type of sport.
Yeah. So maybe for the person that just, this is the first time they've ever heard of an esports concept beyond, something they read on Reddit. Like, what do you say to that person that, wants to check out esports? How do they get involved? Where do they go? Like, where do they Google?
Well, exactly. There's so many things to do. Like, so first of all, esports, one of the first things that I learned when I got involved is, I think people were thinking about esports the way you think about football. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
but
I like
no, it's not like that at all. Esports is like the Olympics with all these different, sports that are under that umbrella. So I might like the Overwatch, game because of the allegiance to the Houston Outlaws and the game that we play, which happens to be one of the most, I think, more complicated video games to play. It requires 6 players playing against 6 players. But you might like playing, the NHL, games. You might like playing Madden, that might be your thing, and League of Legends or the new game Valorant, or, there's lots of different games among us. And so everybody can find like what they like in that space. And then they can find that cohort that also likes it. And so I think what it's doing is just opening people up to new, opportunities and opportunities that you can do at night, you can do in different places. But the people that are just scratching their heads saying, I don't get it. What don't we get? We know that people like to have fun. We're living in a world where entertainment is very on demand, exactly. And it's also very imaginative right now. There's more entertainment than we can possibly consume. And then young people want to socialize. I think during COVID, it's quite possible that the kids stayed better connected than we realized because they had this network pre-built. If I hear one more time about adults and Zoom, oh my God, I'm doing Zoom every day. Well, Zoom's been around for a while. Glad that, a lot of people are into it now, but young people discovered this a long time ago.
Sure.
So
that's kind of the trend, isn't it? Yeah. So now let's talk to the person that says, okay, well, I understand how a professional gaming league is a business, right? Because, you've got to pay to watch the, game, you've got to, hire the players, you've got to, pay to house them. I understand there's money involved there.
Yeah, a little.
But there's really two sides to the same coin because, showing up on Sunday, so to speak, is only part of what these players are actually paid to do. What's the other side? Like, what does that look like, during the week for somebody that's not, playing on Sunday, so to speak?
Yeah, no. So just like if you're a player on a team like ours, you've signed an official contract, that you are working from January 1st till the end of October, after the league is over. And your requirements include, showing up for practice and training. This year, we added a lot to that because we really felt that the players needed to eat properly. They needed to exercise. They needed competitive mental training to have the ability to overcome enormous odds. So we've engaged very heavily in that. So they're here for a long time. But then in addition to that, after they've been scrimming, we call it, all day with different teams, and they're playing oftentimes their competition, which is interesting to practice. They then have massive review sessions with the coaches every single day. And then oftentimes they are either required or they absolutely continue to stream after hours to refine their game and to improve their skills. And they're playing against, other young people in the rankings around the world and all that kind of thing. So that's a big chunk of their job. But in addition to that, particularly for a brand like ours, where we're really trying to connect with Houston, this is our home now, we need to be part of that community. And so it means a couple things. It means that we're producing content so that we can let our fans get to know us, fall in love with us, if you will, be excited about us, get excited about what we're excited about. We are working with Houston Independent School District and the mayor's office on programs that are designed to expose young high school students to what the world of esports is, what the career opportunities are. We have partnered with both University of Houston and University of St. Thomas in different respective areas, but have actually worked on projects and classes with even NBA students that are really trying to wrap their arms around this. So, why is that happening? Because not only is esports as a competitive entertainment sport growing, but it's becoming something absolutely huge. And I know Mainline's involved in this as well. It's a big part of now the high school learning and competitive experience, as well as the collegiate. And so we are trying to do everything we can to help young people see that this is not just something that they do in their spare time. And, those old stereotypes, I don't want my kids down the basement playing. I want them out, playing, passing a football. And now, it's so funny to have these conversations and have my one doctor I went to said, my kid's playing a lot of games. I guess I should let him, right? And I'm like, yes, and he's good. Yes. Like, what's wrong with you? He could get a college scholarship. So, it's all changing. It's sort of cool to see a new industry being born. And I have to say, and I know that with what Tech Rodeo is doing and the whole technology area, there's so many new businesses that are being born. I think what makes this one exciting and sort of sexy is that it's that beautiful convergence of sports and entertainment. And that is, in particularly a town like Houston, different from where, New York, where I'm from. Sports rules and rocks here. And we're part of that new establishment. We are the newest pro sports team here. And so this is going to become bigger. We're hoping to launch a new team, roll out a new team, a new esports team.
Another Call of Duty or something like that.
Another team, and another game, and another sport. And so an esport team. And so, this excites us to no end because we're showing, and it's a totally different game that we're going to be involved in. So it will appeal to different target audiences, younger target audiences. I think it's more of a point of entry opportunity. And, I think for us to have an opportunity to help Houston as it really spreads its credibility within the technology area, I really hope and plan to have people in Houston and really into San Antonio and Austin, where we also have responsibilities as part of our HMA to make video gaming something that people really, really care about.
Well, Lori, this has been fantastic. I certainly have learned a lot, and it's been fun to see your passion and your excitement about what's really coming to Houston and maybe to the nation in terms of the next generation of entertainment. Do you have any kind of final thoughts for our audience? Anything that you want to make sure that they kind of capture as you think about what you're doing and creating something that doesn't quite yet exist in the full form?
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't suggest that people check out outlaws.gg, which is not a normal website address, but outlaws.gg will expose you to what we're doing, and it has our schedule of when we're playing, and it would be great to have more of our friends in Houston come out and support us. We play most weekends during the season, and we have a fierce rivalry with the Dallas Fuel, who we are planning to play and beat on July the 9th. So that's kind of fun, and there's a lot of join our social media following and follow what we're up to, and see what your kids are excited about, because we're what it's all about, and it would be sure fun to work with different brands in this market that want to really connect with this younger consumer and make them their own.
Awesome. Well, Risk Profile and Tech Rodeo, we really appreciate your time. And it's been awesome to sit down with these wonderful entrepreneurs building and doing new and creative things in the realm of esports. Please follow our own podcast and our own socials, and look forward to hearing the feedback. Mark at riskprofile.us, and go be someone.